Well, good day to you. It is December the 2nd. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you happen to be. My name is Gary Willing, and I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And as I always like to do, just remind you again, if you've heard these videos before, point out to you, if you're totally new to this information, that if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, if you want to see if there's any truth to this, investigate it for yourself. I've included links in the description portion of these videos that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. Hopefully you'll do at some point because it's free and it's there for you whenever you want to look into it. If you want to join the discussion, post comments, post your questions in the comments section, or email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. And I want to thank TerraStar and Visualize Inside for your comment and your questions. I really do appreciate it. Now let's get on into it. Now, real quick, Visualize Inside had a comment, and then he had a question he wanted to ask me based on what I had said in my last video about the 3 points of darkness that the Master DK talked about, Ben elaborated on, that right after the Access powers were defeated, those are the 3 points of darkness prior to this, they resurfaced again. One in the Zionist political movement in Israel, the other one in Eastern Europe around the Baltic states, and then the other one was in the Pentagon. So he had a comment to say and a question. I'll try to elaborate on it to perhaps at least shed a light on what I was trying to say. Okay, you mentioned the Zionist movement in Israel, but also, would you also say their supposed counterparts like Hamas, Fatah, and the hardline Islamic apologetics, etc., in that region play just as much of a role in the agenda in that region? It's hard for me to look past that in my own critique. Again, thank you very much, Visualize Inside, for your questions and your comments. Now, if you mean play just as much of a role in the agenda in that region, if you mean are they just as responsible for inflaming the divisions in that area, then the answer is yes. Okay, but what is causing it, and what caused those divisions? Okay, so there are divisions everywhere. I even kind of jokingly say there's now divisions between vegans and people who eat meat, right? Now, as divided as that is, it's not as clear of a division for humanity to see just how divided we are as the Middle East. According to the Masters, that is the most divided. The divisions are greater there and deeper there than anywhere else in the planet. It's the Marianas Trench of divisions. That's how deep it is, where everything else might be divided, but not quite as divided. Even as divided politically as we are here in the United States, between the Democrats and the Republicans, not as divided as there. And it's dangerous. And what caused it initially was, according to the Masters, and this is coming from what I've read in the Masters, okay, from the Masters, is it came when they created the state of Israel. That's what caused the divisions in that area. And who was behind it was the forces of darkness, the lords of materiality, which is the question that James was kind of hinting to when he said, what is the source of all evil, I guess, on this planet? Was that the question per se? Let me go back and read it. What's the main cause of evil on planet Earth? Okay, that's what he was saying. Now, I gave him a caveat, and I'll give you a caveat or a disclaimer, and I gave him a disclaimer, I'll give you a disclaimer. When I tried to answer that question in the last video, I said, who could possibly know this but a master? Something to that effect. I said, but that's what I meant. That's kind of how I was saying it. How could I possibly answer that question as best as I could? My disclaimer for you in saying this is I want you guys to understand this. On any topic, any question that somebody's asking me, let's just let this be the standing disclaimer, okay? I don't claim to be an authority on anything. You know, when it comes to topics like this, I know about as much as you do. And he asked me the question. I didn't throw it out there myself. He asked me that question, so I tried to answer it as best I could. And I even said, I don't know, you know. I can't say that I know it any better than anybody else, you know. Even when it comes to topics about Maitreya, you know, I am certain about one thing, and my certainty lies really in this 3 areas, okay? 1, peace is not only possible, it's an absolute necessity for the survival of everyone on this planet. That's what I believe, okay? Through my research, based on what Maitreya has said, without sharing there will be no justice, without justice there will be no peace, and without peace there will be no future. Through my research of the Marshall Plan, I can kind of back up what he's claiming, but I can't deny that peace is not a necessity. and how important it is for us to be working toward that. So that's why I talk about it so much, right? So this is my only opportunity to talk about it. I can't talk about it at work. My family's tired about me talking about it, but this is my way of kind of getting it out there, getting it off my chest, right? The other thing is that I'm very certain about are the experiences that I have with Maitreya. I know that there's at least something very strange that happened. You can make it out to whatever it is, but I have no proof to offer anyone. I have no selfies with Maitreya. I have no pictures of him, nothing he wrote down, nothing. But I am very certain about that these did happen. He did write a payphone message after I had just used it as an autograph in Japan. He wrote nearly the same thing 10,000 miles away in Georgia on a payphone. And it had a positive message, and it changed my life. The other thing I guess I'm certain about that is how much these interactions I've had with Maitreya have changed my life for the better, right? Nobody can take that away from me. Even though you might not believe me, you might say, well, it was this, it was that, and I can say, I can't argue with you on that. I can only say what I think to be true, right? And then the third thing is that I'm not an expert on anything. And I'm just telling you this, and hopefully you listen to it as that and not me trying to be an authority on anything. So does that clear? So those are my 3 disclaimers, right? So getting back to this whole thing about evil and all that kind of stuff. If you look at, let me go back. The one thing that I find particularly interesting, and I know it's coming from the conditioning that we all have, especially here in the United States, is when I've mentioned those 3 points of darkness that the Master TK talked about and been elucidated on in his works about being in Eastern Europe around the Baltic states, the Pentagon, and the Zionist movement in Israel. Nobody ever mentions, why would you say it was in the Baltic region, or why would you say it was in the Pentagon? They always focus on the Zionist movement. I'm not talking about the Jewish people. I'm talking about the Zionist political movement that has created the unjust situation in that area. But I'm not condoning what Islamic terrorists do either, okay? But the root cause of it, what's flaming it, is this point of darkness in the Zionist movement. It doesn't say that they're not influencing the other side, but they're using it specifically to keep humanity back. Just as they're using the point of darkness in the Pentagon to keep humanity back, to destabilize peace and those kind of things, to keep areas going in violence, going in certain areas, to keep Maitreya from being able to come out fully, all that kind of stuff. They're doing it consciously. But if you look at the work and effort or the outcome of, let's say, the Pentagon, all the nastiness that's happened over the past, 70 years or so since the Pentagon's been formed, 80 years, 75 years, it's been nothing but disastrous. There's been nothing good that's come out of it, right? So when there's a conflict that rises anywhere in the world and the Pentagon is standing on one side, the first thing I look at is I can't trust them. I can't trust them from my own eyes because I've seen nothing but bad stuff happen from them being around. Nothing but lies coming out of their propaganda machines, right? And then based on the knowledge that these masters have said, because I trust what he's saying, there's a point of darkness in there. So why would I listen to that? So if they say that they back Ukraine, then why are they backing Ukraine? You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I think that Putin's all great and fine and wonderful. It just means that I have to distrust what they're doing and their role behind it. Does that make sense? And it would be the same thing in Israel. If you look at the Zionist movement in Israel and the divisions that have come from that, the formation of the state of Israel, there's nothing that's good has happened from it. It's destabilized peace in that area and so forth and so forth and so forth. But I'm working against decades of conditioning of being here in the United States that that Israel is good, Islam is bad. And they want the state of Israel for some reason, and they like it and they support it, but they don't like Arabs, right? And they never have. So then when I come across a book by Benjamin Creme, and he's talking about Yasser Arafat being a good-hearted man. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? How could he be? Based on my own condition. This is what I said and if you go back and listen to my videos and I talk about the first times that I read his books, I didn't agree with everything that he said, right? And that was one of the things that I was like, this can't be true. How can this be true? I've been told my whole life that he was a bad guy. He's saying he actually is not only a good-hearted man, but he has nothing but his people's interest at heart. He doesn't even have any political ambitions to be in that role. That's totally opposite of what my perception of the man was. In fact, Ben even said that he trusted Maitreya. He knew Maitreya, knew who he was. He was evolved enough as a person to be in the presence of Maitreya in that role, knowing that Maitreya wasn't a familiar. He knew Maitreya in that way and asked him his advice about certain things. Some of the things that happened were Israel would offer him, and then the PLO would, the Palestinians, they would offer, when he was ahead of the PLO, they would offer him land deals. And rather than him saying yes or no, he went to Maitreya and said, should I take this or not? That's how much he trusted Maitreya in this. And Maitreya would always look at it and go, this is not a just situation for you and your people. This will lead to more war, more violence, and more terrorism. Don't take it. Don't offer it. It's a red herring. You know what I mean? And then the Israelis would come out on the news, and in the news media here in the United States would say, well, here, see, look, Israel's offering them this, and they keep saying no. They keep saying they want everything to go their way, and blah, 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 blah. But that's kind of how it comes, right? So, but do I agree with Israeli terrorism? No. Do I agree with Islamic terrorism? No. And like I said, if I was sitting down with somebody from Hamas and they were going to tell me that they were about to bomb these people, I would be, please don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. This is the wrong thing to do, right? If I was talking to somebody in Israel and they were saying they wanted to bomb Palestine, I would say, please don't do this. This is the wrong thing to do, right? Because they're both wrong for doing those things. But the point of darkness is what I was referring to. But it's influencing that whole area. In fact, the master Joel Kuhl, who wrote through Alice Bailey, said it was perpetrated by the forces of darkness, the whole creation of the state of Israel. And it set humanity back decades because of that. And it will not be looked upon in the future as this wonderful thing that people are thinking it's going to be. It's not. But it's going to be the one thing that's kept humanity on the brink of destruction is how bad it's been. It doesn't make me an anti-Semite for saying this. I have very many Jewish friends that I love dearly, and I'm not, they can believe whatever they want to believe, just as I can believe whatever I want to believe. I'm not against their beliefs. I'm just saying that this is, looking at the end result of what's happened, it's been nothing but bad news. Same thing with the Pentagon. I'm not against Americans. I love America. I'm not against what America stands for, but what I am against is a Pax Americana foreign policy being perpetrated on the American people, forced down the American people's throats by the Pentagon. I didn't vote for the people in the Pentagon. I voted for the president. They are influencing the president to do what they want to do. And it's been nothing but, and even if I didn't know anything about the masters, I would still probably have almost the same view of the Pentagon, that it's just that bad, because there's been nothing good that's happened from them being formed. Nothing but more war, more debt for the country, more pain and suffering for not only the people around the world, but for our own people. And the karma that it's created for the United States is immeasurable. But I have a deep love for this nation, just as I have a deep love for the people in the Middle East. And you'll find when Maitreya is out openly in the world, he will not be standing on one side or the other. He will be only standing on the side of humanity and the need for peace. He will only be speaking to that. Does that make sense? So I know I could have probably said this in under 5 minutes, but you know me, I always go on and on and on about stuff. But like I said, I was trying my best to answer what James had asked, and perhaps I didn't say exactly what I wanted to say, and perhaps this just creates more questions for you and not answer it for you. But I am, like I said, the one thing that I want you to remember about me is I only care about the future of humanity, really, and I know that the only way we're going to get there is together. All the divisions that we are seeing, that we have for ourselves, are all illusion. And they cause pain and suffering and confusion within the minds of everyone. And the forces of darkness use those divisions for their own benefit. If I looked at the Republicans, I'm very critical about the political situation here in the United States. And I lean on, my criticisms lean on the Republicans more probably than the Democrats. It doesn't mean that I'm not critical of the Democrats as I am, but the thing that the Republicans are doing, and this is also, I would say, would be a direct result of the forces of evil. This is the reason why I'm so vocal against the Republicans, is they're using religious and creating these religious divisions politically. It's extremely destructive. Unfortunately, from their perspective, it's extremely effective. And that's why they're doing it, because they know exactly how deep these roots go. And if they can get a vast majority of the people to believe that politically, their politics, their political agenda, their political party is the voice of God, there will be people that will blindly follow that right off a cliff, you know what I mean? And go to the ends of the earth for them. And not just look at it as it should. Well, I don't agree with that. You know what I'm saying? This country was built on dissent. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason we were, the whole thing was based on that. You know, to the point where they want to throw out the Constitution, what they've grown up to come and love. They want to throw out all this stuff. And because it's about the party now. It's about party being, you know, the voice of Jesus. And it's not. But this is all a direct result of the forces of evil doing this. What would make me say that is going back to the Bush administration and how critical Ben's master was of what they were doing, and how he even said that it was the forces of darkness that were using the religious zealousness of, and a religious belief of George W. Bush. They were using it against him because he was a recent convert to Christianity. He was basically a hellion up until that point, had the road to Damascus experience, was a born-again Christian, and the forces of darkness were using that against him for all sorts of stuff. For one, attacking Iraq and attacking Afghanistan. Did any good come out of that, right? No, it didn't bring about peace. It didn't bring about security. It brought about bloodshed, death. There was millions of people in Iraq, millions of innocent Iraqis that were killed because he thought he was doing God's work. I can't stand for that. Does it mean that everything about the Republican Party is bad? No. And what they stand for is bad? No. Just as I don't think everything that the Democratic Party is standing for is good. You know what I mean? But they aren't doing that. If they were doing that too, I would be just as much against the Democratic Party and critical of them as I am of the Republican Party. Does that make sense? But it doesn't mean that the Democrats don't do bad things. It doesn't mean that their policies aren't jacked up. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that they are not being influenced as much as the Republicans are from the forces of darkness. So, like I said, this was all about the question of the forces of darkness. But I love you guys. You guys take care. Enjoy your day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.